Welcome back to Composition and its Allies. My name is Barney. I'm a classical composer, and this is a channel for composers as well as performers that are interested in composition. Fugue for Composers is for anyone who wants to either compose their first fugue or finish their first fugue. When it comes to fugue, there are generally two blocks that prevent composers from realizing their destiny. The first are technical blocks. You honestly need certain harmonic skills, not necessarily contrapuntal, but harmonic skills in order to be able to do a fugue without any kind of help. I find most composers have the necessary contrapuntal skills, but they're lacking certain core skills like modulations and working across keys that you absolutely need for fugue. But let's say that's not an issue for you. Another problem you may be encountering is that's more mental. So when it comes to fugue, there's a lot of propaganda. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like all these rules, Bach, always comparing yourself to Bach. And there's these ridiculous standards that have no relation to your own particular style. This can come from teachers, it can come from students, it can be just misunderstanding what fugue is about. So assuming that that is under wraps and that's not an existential problem for you, right now, I want to share with you something that is very, very unsexy. It is not exciting to do, but it is at the heart of excellent fugue writing. Let's begin. So a really important question that I often ask myself, especially when I have doubts about what I should do, okay, is what is the most painful thing that I can do or that I need to do? And many times the answer is really simple, but it's avoided because it is so painful. And it's always the most painful things that we could possibly do that are the most important things. So I succumbed to reason and I did it. All right, so I recopied, okay, and I was expecting it to be really boring, but as you're about to see, we had some wonderful discoveries. So notice in the original version, as part of long-term destinations, notice the tenor entrance comes on a consonance with the end of the children's chorus. Okay, because it's more pleasing for the ear. And of course, many times the front of your subject, it is subject to mutation because you want to work with the harmony, especially if it's across the bar line where the harmony is likely to change. So in French, c'est pas de problème. Okay, everything is sur le bon chemin. So in French, everything is looking good. However, as I was recopying this, I was singing it as well. So it's not just a simple copy. I was singing it and the music is coming alive to me. And I realized I actually prefer a dissonance. Listen carefully. Okay. Now, of course, this is a very rapid fugue, but strongly overcome with female so it won't be super noticed, but it's still going to be there. And yes, many times we do want consonants for our entrances, but this is a fugue in your own style. Okay, this is a very, very heightened section. And what I realized through this recopying that I want to avoid, I actually want to modify this, right? So this ends up being a little bit composition, and I want that dissonance. From there, I decided, okay, if I'm going to have a dissonance, maybe I need to bring it out a little more so we can really soak it in. So maybe I want to make it a little bit longer note value. So if we look at example 1, notice that I tried a half note. But strongly overcome with female charm. Really to bring that out. Let me play it. Okay, and then from there, I listened a little further back. Okay, so a skill that or a strategy that we do in fugue is called overlapping entrances. I first brought this to your attention in a video from last semester called The Ending of a Fugue, and the second part of the video, I showed you how I got the ending by getting overlapping entrances. All right, and I found with fugue, there's just no way to do it unless you're going to do it that way. Okay, maybe there's other ways, but that's what I find the most logical and practical. So, but strongly overcome with female charm, right? So, okay, so I had to listen. What was its entrance prior? And as we can see, I put charm, but strongly overcome with female charm. All right. So a hidden benefit of this strategy of just, the strategy of this tâche lourde, as it's in French, this very unsexy task, is I'm getting more music a little bit prior. Now, it's not important music. It's not the subject. It's not all these cool, crazy, sexy things, but it is still getting more of the piece. So never discount those things that are not sexy, okay? Now, another thing I want to bring to your attention is notice the change of direction. So the children's chorus does, but strongly overcome with female charm. Okay, the rising fourth. But notice I have example 2. I have 2 possibilities for tenor. I have tenor. But strongly overcome with female charm. But strongly overcome with female charm. All right. And so one of the reasons for this is as I was recopying the music, I realized actually I think I prefer the tenor to come in from a higher elevation because it's just a warmer region. The lower G sharp is fine, but it's not excellent. Okay, and the fugue is une recherche. Okay, we say in French, it is basically a quest for the excellence, the highest excellence possible. And I find the warmer region of the tenor, starting there, superior. Okay, so this is one of the parts of the fugue that's difficult, but it's not existential, but you just got to have that raffinement, we say in French. You got to have that subtlety and be willing to make some modifications. And, if you've been programmed too much with academic fugue, that can get in the way. Though in general, I think there is an understanding with mutations that these things are going to happen. So the next thing I want to offer is a tip for composing your fugue that I find really useful. And as you can see on the screen here, I have the long-term destination. So it's marked in red. It's preparatory work for the climax. And notice that I have a piano reduction. Okay. And there's a couple of reasons. The practical reason is this is part of an oratorio. So I definitely want an orchestra to be present. So there, of course, will be a piano accompaniment as well for a chamber version. So there's a practical reason, but also it allows me to sketch out the harmony, because one of the difficulties of fugue is you kind of have to work on one line at a time. You, French would say partager, you share between lines, you go between this line, this main line, this main, but still you can only have one at a time. And so I kind of want to see everything that's going on in a more bird's eye view. It also allows me to fill in the harmony. So look here at measure 4, where I have this as right hand, left hand. Notice I have like 4 notes to the chord in the right hand. So that's telling me what the overall harmony is, even if I haven't had time to realize all the middle voice, all the smaller voices. So this is something that, if you're struggling with fugue, just test it out. But if it gets in the way of your process, then just faut l'oublier, we say in French, forget about it. But I do find it helps, especially just for harmony, especially for a vocal fugue, because I don't always know what the lyrics are going to, I have the text, but I don't know how it's going to fit most naturally. So I want to go a little bit ahead and see what's going on. Now, one problem with this, I would say, is very crowded, okay, because it's a 5-part fugue and now we have 2 extra saves, so I can't see as much. So it's just something that maybe you can use or maybe you don't want to use. Next, I want to point out a problem. Against. So notice I have this slow chant in the children's chorus. Against it's better knowledge. Okay. It's better knowledge. Okay. So we have this slow chant in the children's chorus. And notice with this modification for the tenor that they now have a simultaneous entrance. Oh my goodness! Okay. And this is something that is actually first addressed in contrapuntal studies in 5th species, right? 5th species, there's a big emphasis, you don't want simultaneous entrances, there's all these rules, but it's preparing you to have this inclination with you to have, independence of parts. Now, there's no way to avoid simultaneous entrances at a certain point, but certainly for something significant, against, a dominant tonic relationship, that's really obvious. So, and the tenors are about to start their new entrance. To me, this is not very good. Okay, so I circled it, and I'm going to have to adjust it. Either I'm going to have to adjust the tenor or I'm going to have to adjust children's chorus. And this is one of the difficulties of fugue, right? Because when you make a change, like I had to adjust the tenor, I have it come on the G sharp, so I have the dissonance. I bring up the dissonance by extending its duration, which is really nice. I really like it. But now it contradicts a previous decision. So when it comes to fugue, I think composers aren't thinking about ces petites tâches, we say in French. Okay, these little tasks that are, you have to enjoy it. There's just no way around it. Like, this is part of your job if you're going to do fugue, and it is something you will encounter very often. You make a change, you see a fundamental change when you have that vision, right? Okay, I want the dissonance, but to make that vision happen, you have to change all these other things, and you have to make adjustments. But you have to make sure those adjustments don't undermine a different change at a higher level, if you know what I mean. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that when you make one change, you'll have to make several smaller changes. All right. So notice now I have the tenor coming on beat 4, and when I look at this, I actually don't like it. Okay, I don't like it. It's not what I want, but I definitely don't want to coincide exactly with the second children's chorus. So I made a note. I need to work on this later because c'est pas grave in French. It's just I'm not happy with it, but I know the alternative is also not acceptable. Maybe I will have to adjust the children's chorus. Maybe I'll have to adjust the tenor. I already suspect I will have to start a new piece of paper because I'll need a couple measures prior, and that's also really annoying. But as we're seeing, this is all composition. So this unsexy task that I'm sharing with you today of just copying down the climax so I can work on after the climax, right? All this work I'm doing is so I can get after the climax. But ultimately, there's no way of shortcutting progress, right? This all has to be done. So I don't see it as somehow far away from the goal. You think there's a goal. My goal is to get to after the climax. And yes, that appears to be a goal. But by pursuing that goal, I have to recopy the climax. But to recopy the climax, I have to actually listen, copy down what I want, and make some changes. I discover other problems, but I am getting closer to a finished fugue. I hope that this was instructive of some of the thinking that you have to go through for fugue. Do not put off those small tâches pénibles, we say in French. You have to do it. If you have not composed your fugue today, please shut off YouTube and go make it happen. Stop making excuses. You got this. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Now, I'm starting to discover some problems. Some are big and some are small. So, big problem number 1. At measure 8 in the original, so as part of long-term destinations, I have a tenor entrance, but strongly overcome with female charm, which is exactly the same as the prior entrance in this climax, except for the opening interval.